it's something we saw for the first time today, all of us. And it changed things, of course. It made things a little bit different. I think the team responds just the way everybody responds, to these things. And again, you're talking about somebody you know, so it's a little more challenging when you're talking about someone that's part of your family, so to speak. And so our guys, they felt it.
Certain names become synonymous with certain infamous events. From this moment forward, Ray Rice will become a poster board for domestic violence and a whole lot more. This is not the first time a pro athlete has been caught doing something abhorrent. It is also not the first time an athlete has been given a massive break because they can do things athletically mere mortals cannot. And it is not the first time we have witnessed people making light of a serious situation because they fear their team may lose games or their fantasy leagues won't cash in. The avenues here are endless but must bear the weight of scrutiny. Let's welcome to MidPoint. He's been called the stress doctor, holds a Ph.D. in psychology as a national and international educator, author, and speaker, working with Fortune 500 companies, also former team psychologist for, among others, the Miami Dolphins. Dr. Terry Lyles joins us here on the set. And also, he's an award-winning journalist and author, focusing on the business of sports and the politics within, also a good friend for many years covering sports and the people who dwell in that world. Evan Weiner joins us via Skype today. Evan, thanks so much for joining us via Skype. Doctor, thanks so much for being here today.
Glad to be here.
Thank you, Ed.
Evan, I'm going to hold you off for just a moment. Doctor, I want to start here. What does this say, though, about people and a team that knew that something had happened? They continued to support him. They continued to say that we have to wait for evidence. And fans cheered him when he showed up for the first preseason game. It's not as if we didn't know that something happened in that elevator in the first place. It just seems incredible that people were willing to give him this kind of a break because he's an athlete.
Yes, and once again, power, money, fame brings huge responsibility, and people are watching. Fans, family members, beloved people that love the game itself. But at the end of the day, people are people, and people are going to make mistakes. This was a horrific mistake that he made, even if you can call it a mistake. And I think at the outside of that is, by them not getting all the facts before they just released him to play, I think is going to haunt the league, the team, and probably a lot of others that were on the bandwagon saying this is not that big of a deal when it's a huge deal today.
Having talked to athletes and seeing the video as you have, and so many others have seen it as well, what does that then tell you about the nature of aggression, specifically in a sport like the like the National Football League? Because there are those who say it is an aggressive, violent collision sport, and this is simply what many of these players are made of at their core.
Well, it's what they're trained to do. It's what they're trained to be. And I think on the outside, what we have to do is look at that. We enjoy the contact. We enjoy the sport itself. But from the inside, the aggression and what it takes to play this game at that level takes a lot of hope, counseling, coaching,
takes a lot of counseling, you just said. That's
Yes.
interesting in there. We hear a lot about coaching, but we never hear about counseling. Has this just been a recent thing that's happened in the NFL?
No, I all across sport. I mean, I do a lot of coaching, counseling across sport. And we've called it counseling from years ago, but really most people want to call it coaching, so everyone can be a coach of some kind. But at the end of the day, players and athletes need accountability. They live in a bubble. People are watching them. And part of what I use is a system that can track stress and recovery levels internally, biologically as well as psychologically. And unless things are tracked on a regular basis, these kind of events can take place and will continue to take place without education, awareness, and more coaching, counseling, and accountability.
Evan, let me go ahead and turn to you on this too, because as we discuss this and we hear so much about the players, we hear so much about what has happened here. You've been around the NFL a long time, so have I. It is fair to say that something like this has been a simmering pot for many years in the NFL. This is not the first time this has happened. There certainly is a lot of history here, and the National Football League is still a business. They have covered up an awful lot of this in the past to continue to make money, correct?
Yeah, Lawrence Taylor would be the poster boy for that. The New York Giants used to have a special fund to pay off people to make sure that LT was on the field. And you have seen adults to this day who are now 50, 60, 70 years old who wear the LT jersey. But, this is nothing new. I mean, we got Greg Hardy in Carolina right now who was arrested. You have another player, McDonald in San Francisco, who's arrested for domestic violence. These guys are gladiators. They're trained to kill. And sometimes they don't know when to turn it off. And we see it constantly. And I was just reading something. Dennis Potvin was accused many, many years ago, 30 years ago, by his wife during a divorce suit when he played with the New York Islanders of beating her. Warren Moon We know about Warren Moon, his divorce, where his wife said he used to beat her. And domestic violence, Lawrence Phillips is another guy. Sports has turned a blind eye to it. They seem to be more concerned about performance-enhancing drugs on the field for a level playing field than guys beating up people, whether it's women, whether it's people in bars, whether it's car accidents. You know, how many players have been arrested since the end of the last season or January 1st? I counted up over 30 on various charges. However, the fans accept it.
Well, wait a minute. Hang on. I'm going to stop you right there, too. You say the fans accept it. Psychologically speaking, there's something wrong with that as well, is there not? Because the fans are the ones who are willing to give these players second, third, and fourth chances. Again, as I said in my intro, many of them will do it, and they will look past things such as domestic violence because a guy can score a touchdown and can help them win a Super Bowl and let them say, that's our guy and our team.
Exactly. It's all about entertainment, and it's all about entertaining your fans or a fan base or fantasy. I mean, how many people had Ray Rice in their fantasy league this year? Players come and go. They're dispensable. Some are better than others, but the fans accept whatever the owners send them. And part of it is the media. You know, look, Harvey Levin deserves a Pulitzer for what he's done this year. He's had the two biggest stories of the year, Donald Sterling and Ray Rice. In terms of sports casting, in terms of sports reporting, they want to be extensions of public relations departments. And why not? I mean, you're watching a game, you're having a good time watching a game, and how many people would want to be you, being an announcer, being a reporter, being on radio? Red Smith many years ago talked about how sports is the toy section of the newspaper. You don't see too many sports guys breaking huge stories, and I give them hats off to Harvey Levin.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there on the toy story for a second here, because a few minutes that we have left, Doctor, I want to turn to you on this. His wife, fiance, first fiance, then wife, has basically said today on social media, I feel just as bad, I'm sorry. There are women right now that I've spoken to who have been involved in domestic violence who cringe when they see something like this because they know what this woman is undergoing. How do we turn this off then? The fans, the reaction, the teams who are willing to let things like this simply slide by the board because it makes them money. How?
Yeah, I mean, you have an athlete making $10 million a year, and you know the notoriety that goes with it, as we said earlier, and for his wife and women at large, I mean, so many women get caught in situations that they just don't know how to get out of, or they don't know how to say, hey, I'm in trouble. This is my husband. I love him. He loves me. We're going to make it better. Things don't always get better. You know, you've got to work at things, and sometimes it takes cataclysmic change and awareness to make that happen.
How do we turn this off, though, from the league? Because Goodell made an absolute mistake here, but it still was a mistake that people cannot believe was made after seeing that. And the fans who to this day, there are still fans out there right now, and certain network people who are saying, oh, come on, take the stairs instead, don't take the elevator. It's not such a big deal. How do we shut that down?
You know, that's the challenge, because psychologically, you know, we love our athletes, we love our teams. This is entertainment at its best. But to make them heroes when things like this happen, I mean, we have to set the table straight that when something like this goes on that's horrific like this, it needs to be dealt with swiftly, it needs to be dealt with immediately, and people need to know that the message is clear. There is a zero tolerance for this type of behavior in any sport, much less one as large as the NFL.
Evan, I got about a minute left here. Zero tolerance, and the NFL failed on that one here. Is it as simple as that? And are sports leagues, in your opinion, and teams willing to do that? I tend to feel that they're not, or at least they may give it lip service.
I don't think, you know, all these guys are competitive, the owners. And I think, as Billy Martin once told me, and he may have told you when you were with Billy Martin, if Adolf Hitler could have hit a curveball and run down a fly ball in center field, I'd have him on my team. These guys, all they want to do is win. Now, there are some owners who have kicked players off, like Peter in New England. But hey, somebody took Lawrence Phillips, and we know what happened with Lawrence Phillips. LT was with the Giants for his entire career. Fans accept it. They just want to be entertained. They want their team to win. They feel part of bonding, and they don't really want to know how the sausage is made. All they want to do is see the end product, either cheer or boo, feel good when their team wins, feel lousy when their team loses, because they're part of that team.
Then 10 seconds, last word here. Do you fire Goodell?
No, you don't. He's making them money. Goodell is doing what the owners want. Ultimately, it's the 31 owners in the Green Bay Packers board of directors who make the decision. We don't.
And that is going to be the last word. Evan Weiner, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. We'll do it again. Dr. Lyles, thank you so much for coming in as well. It's an issue that we're going to have to continue to look at as well, trust me. Later on this hour, the one word people are not using about Ray Rice that needs to be used every single time his name comes up. And after the break, the subject Americans remain illiterate about. It's here on MidPoint.